Welcome back to the Fried Egg Golf Podcast. I am your host, Andy Johnson, and today's episode is presented by Optum. Optum is a leading information and technology-enabled health services business dedicated to helping make the health system work better for everyone. With more than 210,000 people worldwide, Optum delivers intelligent, integrated solutions that help modernize the health system and improve overall population health. Optum is part of the United Health Group, and Optum is a proud partner of the Players' Championship, and Rory McIlroy, one of the stars of the Ryder Cup, maybe the star, the culture setter for the Europeans, is an Optum Health ambassador. Visit Optum.com to learn more, and big thanks to Optum for getting us out to Bethpage and supporting us for a big week for us. I'm really excited today to chat about the Ryder Cup. I'm going to be joined by NBC Sports, Golf Channel. You probably see him on Live From doing some crazy stuff. Johnson Wagner. Johnson is one of my favorite people in the golf world that I run into at golf tournaments. I'm very excited to chat with him about the week. He was in the arena. He was doing coverage of the Ryder Cup for Peacock, and then he was also doing Live From at night for Golf Channel. So Johnson was in the ring and kind of got to experience everything that Bethpage and the Ryder Cup had to offer. Obviously, the Europeans got it done. If you're listening to this, you probably watched. It was a blowout that became a tightly contested battle late on Sunday. Almost a remarkable comeback by the United States team. But it was really an interesting week to be out there, to put it more ways than one. On one hand, you had just like some extraordinary golf. And then on the other hand, you had just kind of a tough week with crowd interaction with players. It was we get into all of that on this podcast and kind of talk about what's next for both teams. Big thanks to Johnson for joining us, and let's get to Johnson Wagner. All right, Johnson, I think this is the last huge event of the year. You know, I haven't consulted a calendar. I'm very sleep deprived. I'm just happy to be done with the Ryder Cup at this point. But I think you're done with Live From for the year, and I'm just curious. I know you're calling the golf tournament this weekend. When you get done with like the last Live From, is it kind of a big exhale? Is there a ritual that you guys do?
Well, this is only my second year doing Live From, and yeah, there's a big exhale. It's called closing down the lobby bar of the hotel that we've been staying at all week, and we did that successfully. And then it may have ended up into a hotel room for extracurricular. Yes, every Live From week, the hours are long and it's rewarding, and we love these majors. But man, Scotty Scheffler said it in his post-round comments yesterday. He went all 5 matches, and he's like, this is exhausting. Going all 5 matches is exhausting. And I, like, as tired as I am post Ryder Cup, and I know you are too, like, imagine what it's like for those players that went 5 rounds, like walking that golf course. It's a lot. It's a big week.
That is a taxing walk out there. It was hotter than I think everybody expected it to be. It's a big walk. And I just think I don't think people that haven't played like competitive golf understand the mental strain that goes into a single round of golf. And you could just see it on the guys' faces that all the guys that went 5, they were so out of gas on Sunday. It actually made me think, like, and I think Luke won it on Saturday by pushing his horses, but they had nothing in the tank on Sunday, and that's part of the story. And it makes me wonder if having your horses go 5 is a good strategy. I think it's like a great debate as to whether it is, but absolutely. I mean, I'm exhausted because those days are so long and there's just like really quick turnaround, but I couldn't have even imagined being in the arena with everything going on, especially this week, the intensity level of match play, the intensity level of playing for your country or playing for your continent, you could see it on those guys' faces.
Andy, I walked Saturday afternoon with featured match on Peacock. Then it was DeChambeau and Scheffler versus Fleetwood and Rose. And I mean, I play a lot of golf. I walk. I know Bethpage. It was an incredible match, and I knew what it was going to be like. And when I get out there and I walk, I'm racing down the fairways. I'm getting up in front of people, and I was fine. My two bad knees, and I was just killing it, crushing it up the hills, getting ahead. And I got in my cart and drove back to the TV compound to get ready to go do live from. And it was about a 15-minute cart ride back. And when I got out of the cart and my left leg hit the ground, my left knee could not support my body weight. And I darn near went to the ground. Like, it was just, my legs were so sore. Like, these guys, it was a grind out there because of everything, but that golf course is a particularly difficult walk. I mean, it's up and down the whole time. So, I mean, kudos to, who was it? Scotty, Rory, Fleetwood, Bryson. I mean, those guys that went five, that is like Rahm all time.
I hadn't been there since the PGA, and I forgot how vertical the climbs are up to greens. Like, I remembered there are a lot of elevated greens, and that's something, if you've been to Bethpage, you just know. I forgot how vertical they are. Like, they are really steep climbs.
Really steep climbs. And to be honest, like, tough viewing, especially for a Ryder Cup. I thought the viewing, walking inside the ropes, you want to be careful of standing in front of fans and taking a knee, whatever you got to do. It's tough to get a spot where you can see. And I thought the spectator experience at a Ryder Cup or President's Cup is tough anyway, especially Friday, Saturday, because there's only 4 groups at a time. And so it's just congested. But I thought Bethpage was especially tough to watch golf this year, which may have led to some of the chippiness of the fans.
Could have. I want to make you feel better. I've got a woman that drives me back and forth from the airport all the time. And I was like embarrassed when I got dropped off a couple minutes ago before this. I think she's seen me get out of a car like so many times. And I got out so gingerly. This morning, I could see in her eyes she was wondering what was wrong with me.
Well, I mean, I can't imagine flying across the country from New York to, you flying to Seattle? Is that where you live?
San Francisco.
San Francisco. Sorry, I can't imagine taking a cross country flight this morning. How my body would have felt. I know how it feels right now, and all I've been doing is slugging water all day and trying to hydrate. I can't imagine how your body feels.
I mean, thankfully, I didn't close down a hotel bar last night, so that would be the only thing that could have made it worse.
Did I already say that?
Let's get to the competition. There's a lot to unpack. I think this was kind of a content bonanza. Obviously, the Europeans win. They as Rory calls a shot. It's become very difficult to win an away Ryder Cup, and the U.S. team got blitzed the first 2 days, and then made a remarkable comeback on Sunday to make it close. It was kind of insane watching it. Let's start with a few players. Who were a couple players that stood out to you from both a positive and negative sense?
I'm gonna go USA first, and I think Xander Schauffele. It was a big question mark going in, just given the way that he played throughout the season. Didn't play since BMW, had a baby. I think as far as the American side, he was a question mark, which is crazy that he was a question mark, and he brought it. He played great. I love Xander Schauffele, JJ Spawn, Cameron Young. They were unbelievable. Like the people we thought we were going to have, and Scotty and Bryson weren't. I mean, for whatever reason, they brought the intensity. They wanted it, but Spawn, Young, and Xander are my 3 MVPs for the American team.
Yeah, it was such a weird year leading in for the Americans where you obviously had some turnover. Like the Brooks DJ era gone in sense of two mainstays for a number of years, particularly DJ, just kind of a horse. Um, and in comes a bunch of players like that people felt were question marks, but in the sense of in the case of Cameron Young and JJ Spawn, two of the players playing the best coming in. And I was sitting in the press conference last night with the European team, this was actually afterwards. Rory was talking to an Irish television network. He was just talking about like how important form is coming in. And if you looked at form coming in, those were two of the biggest, the best players coming into it. Now, Xander Schauffele, I think he was oddly, as you said, a question mark. And it kind of felt like he found his game late in the week.
I'm with you. Well, Cam Young, I watched Cam Young on Thursday when they went out and played 15, 16, 17, 18. He missed every fairway, missed every green. It was awful. And I was convinced that he was going to sit the entire day on Friday. He sat in the morning. And then when he came out Friday afternoon, stuffed it on one, made birdie on his first ever hole in a Ryder Cup. He just ascended like immediately. Like I was taken aback by how great he was because of what I saw during practice rounds, because he was not good during practice rounds. But that's a different thing. We talking about practice?
I think, Cam had kind of a dream setup. Obviously, he had circled the date, and it was a real question till the end if he was going to make the team. But, he's a native New Yorker, and basically I saw like them go through like all of his career achievements. I'm not sure where I saw it, whether it was it might have been on Golf Channel or USA during one of the sessions, all the achievements they had throughout his life on Bethpage Black. Like, he obviously, everybody talks about the state open, winning that as an amateur at 21. He won a state championship there in high school. I think he had a few other accolades there. But you think about like a dream setup is like, I can't imagine there are many courses. And I'd be curious in your career if you had something similar to this, where you just have good feelings at places that develop through a long history of playing great there. And he comes out and he just balls out there. And I mean, I think if big tournament goes to Bethpage, Cam Young has to be at the top of the list of contenders, no matter what, after this week.
I completely agree. And for me, it was the Houston Open. It used to be called Redstone. Now it's Golf Club of Houston. I won there in 08. I played well there in 07, my rookie year. And every year I could have missed 10 cuts coming into it. I could have been playing at the top of my game. It didn't matter. I was going to play great at that golf course. And it's amazing when you step on a facility, when you step on a property that you love and you're going to play well at, that's the goal. You want to feel that way every week, but it can't. He is built for that place, and the setup didn't hurt him either. No rough and wider fairways. That it was like he's like, whoa, Bethpage is hard. Now it's easy. I'm going to tear this place to pieces, and that's what he did.
Yeah, I mean the Bombers were very rewarded. It was an interesting decision with setup. Just because if you looked at the two teams, the team that had the really precise shorter players were the Americans with Morikawa and Henley in particular, two players that they were leaning on an alternate shot at a session they got just smoked in. Real quick on Redstone. This is just a quick anecdote. I would say that one of the holes that I most miss on the PGA Tour is the 18th hole at Redstone, because anything could happen.
Anything could happen. It's a great golf hole. It's a great finish to any golf tournament, is that golf hole. And when they had it set up the week before the Masters, and they had it overseeded, and the fairways were so tight and the greens were so fast and there was no rough, and it was a joy to play that place.
Yeah, I played there. I lived in Texas for a short period of my life, and I played there a few times. And I was in my 20s playing somewhere that the tour played was just. But that 18th, I had a great round going once, and that 18th hole just ate my lunch. I think I made a quad, and I was, it was a round that I was like really going, and it just completely derailed me. So it delivers so many good moments over the years. 17 and 18 in
Yes,
particular.
absolutely.
Um,
Yes. Oh my gosh, incredible.
let's talk about the Euros real quick. Who are a couple players that stood out to you there?
Rory, obviously, with everything he had to deal with, going five, playing the way he did. I think John Rahm. Uh, I think John Rahm is a top three player in the world, and he showed us that this week. And it's just so sad we don't get to see him more often. Matthew Fitzpatrick, who was a captain's pick, who Luke Donald spurred on and said, "You need to do something at the end of this year, or you're not going to be on the team." And the way he played the back half of the season, and then the Ryder Cup, he was amazing. Tommy Fleetwood is an absolute beast, and Justin Rose, who's my age, he's 45 years old. Justin Rose going out and doing what he did, putting the way he putted. I have so much respect for Justin Rose. It's not even at 45 doing what he's doing, playing at that level. It's remarkable. So I could go down the whole year. All of the European team impressed me. I think they were spot on. They were stoic under extreme scrutiny and intensity.
Um, you went the whole Fleetwood, Rose, Bryson, Scotty match, and I think that it may be, you can look at a lot of different matches and talk about the importance, but I think maybe that match encapsulated just the European team versus the U.S. team more so than anything. Obviously, Rose and Fleetwood have these unbelievable Ryder Cup records, but the U.S. team pairing Scotty and Bryson in a 4-ball setting was saying, we are going to go win this point. That's the message they were sending, and those two played great, but ran into an absolute buzzsaw.
They were 9 under par through 16 holes and lost. They were 9 under par through 16 holes. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, it's all right. I was just going to get to the question. What are some lasting memories from that match that you'll have being up close and just watching it unfold?
It started so early. They both birdied one, Scotty and Rose. I think the same on 2. Rose made birdie on 3, and then you're 2 under through 3, and you're 1 down. And then Bryson on this was maybe the best golf shot I've ever seen. Blind pin. He was the last one to play in on 4, and he had an 8-iron from like 210 to this far for eagle to win the hole, and it was just like. It was unbelievable, and I'm way trudging up ahead, and I didn't see it. Smiley Kaufman was with that group with NBC, and he gets up, he walks, takes a different route, and he's like, it's like this, and I got up there, and there's the reaction from Bryson, and I don't think we have enough time on this podcast to talk about how many memories I have from that match. Scotty Scheffler on 10, Tommy Fleetwood hit in on 10 to a 1.5 feet. He was first to play. Scotty Scheffler was second to play, and he flew it into the cup, and it bounced out into the rough. Scotty Scheffler flew the ball into the hole, and it bounced out to the rough. It was unbelievable. It was the best ball striking. 12 when Fleetwood and Rose. Scotty's over by the Porta-Johns left, hits a great shot to the right, just right of the green, and then I think it was Fleetwood first sticks it to 5 feet, and then Rose hits it to 3 feet, and then Bryson's like 10 feet, and he's the worst shot of the bunch. It was just constant back and forth, and the amount of birdies, the amount of quality golf shots in that group was unlike anything I've ever seen.
The golf course setup being so soft, I think yielded a lot of like spectacular shots to the short rough, but at the same time, to me, one of the things that stuck from the week was just the level of shot making, and in moments where people put it on top of an already great shot, which in match play, somebody's putting the screws to you, you're hitting second, you see a great shot go up there, you know you have to deliver. And how many times on both sides that they delivered and then cashed in putts. From that match, I don't think I'll ever forget, Justin Rose going out. I can only imagine how frustrating this is for a Scotty and a Bryson. I think we saw it probably flare up with Bryson with Rose. I heard that, Cam Young in the post round or in the post tournament press conference when he was talking, somebody asked him about his Sunday match, and he was like, I had it in hand, everything was going great, and then all of a sudden Justin Rose things started happening. And the way he described it as Justin Rose things, and then I thought I was going to blow it. Well, all day Saturday afternoon was Justin Rose things happening, and I will never forget the putt on, was it 5 or 6, where he has like a 15-footer. He's already made 3 or 4 birdies in the opening holes, and he hits the putt, and seemingly as soon as it leaves the face, he starts walking it in.
It was number 8. It was ridiculous. He had just birdied 6, 7, and 8, and he walked. I've never seen anybody walk a putt in. I was standing up near the 9th tee calling that, and I thought when he started walking, I thought he missed it. He was walking so early, and then it just went boop right in the center of the cup. It was crazy. Crazy.
Remember the President's Cup at Royal Melbourne when Tiger made the putt and shook the hand, but then somebody did like the edit that like effectively made it look like he hit the putt and turned and shook the hand and it dropped. It was like that. It was honestly, it looked like it was like a fake putt when he made it.
Do you know who Tiger beat in that match that he made that putt? Do you know his hand he shook?
Abe Answer.
That's right.
Abe Answer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, of course you know that. Why am I questioning you, Andy?
That was an amazing tournament. That President's Cup at Royal Melbourne. I think I want to talk a little bit more about some of the Europeans, but maybe we'll, a through line here is the course setup. That course was set up so well in the sense of the firmness. Like, it was short, obviously, but the firmness that Australian golf can present created very interesting strategic dilemmas and like preferred areas in a match play setting. And where, if you hit it in the fairway, it wasn't necessarily always the best place in the fairway because of the golf course architecture and then also the presentation in terms of the firmness. I think we saw like the complete polar opposite of that setup this week, where it was kind of like mind-boggling how I don't think I've ever seen a golf course where, between the rain, which softened the greens, and then the no rough, where there was, and obviously I think Bethpage's big flaw is the greens. They are very benign. They're boring, and not only the greens, but around the greens. If you miss the greens around the greens, if they aren't firm, it's super easy up and downs. It was golf without any consequences. It didn't matter where you missed. It didn't matter if you short-sided yourself. It was what I've never seen. Looking at these shots, like what would be hard up and downs if the greens were firm, turned into very simple up and downs. But I thought that did reduce the tournament a little bit.
Well, why go to Bethpage if you're going to set it up that way? Bethpage is a brutally difficult test. And Wednesday, before we had the rain on Thursday, the greens were firm. They were bouncing. They were fast. We didn't have that much rain Thursday for them to stay soft all week long. I'm convinced somebody was out there putting water on the greens, and I just don't know why. I don't know why the fairways they played ball in hand every single session. Every single session. You were there. Do we have that much rain Thursday? There's no. I've never seen it. We did. There's no chance.
So everything. All my comparisons for a wet golf course will now always go to Oakmont from this year, and what we saw at Oakmont, where it was, we jokingly called it Muddy Mont at one point, where it's just mud and the ball. You think about like that U.S. Open and them playing the ball down versus this Ryder Cup where it was played up, and I couldn't believe how the greens, and I think I don't I don't know what they did with them, but it was like alarming how even Keegan in the team press conference was like, I just don't understand why they were still so soft, you know.
I think I'm convinced that Europe went out and flooded them every night. I mean, they may have gone out there and hand watered every green. They had a guy out there doing it because there's no. I've played Bethpage 15, 25 times. I've never seen those greens act like that. And you're spot on. The greens are benign. They're flat. They're pretty easy to putt with a few exceptions. Like 15's great, but it was mind-boggling how soft it was and how brutal the setup was. And all the local people out there, they were furious at how easy and how they're like, this is the golf course I know. I play this place on a normal Wednesday. It's harder than these guys are playing. So I think it was a whiff on the course setup. Whoever that is, sorry if it's Keegan. Sorry, Keegan. Y'all missed. They missed that setup because you gave away any advantage you had.
I asked Keegan in the team press conference about setup, like why they went with the no rough. Was it a data thing or was it something that he chose to do? He wouldn't throw anybody under the bus necessarily, but he said he wished he would have gone with his intuition, which I asked a follow up. Was it was the data telling you? If you said intuition, was it? He gave me a non-answer on that, but to me, it seems like the data. To me, what I got reading between the lines, the data told them their data. Which, I think one of the things that's crazy about the Ryder Cup right now is the data conversation. And obviously, a lot of this stems from Europe having a complete data whiz in Dodo Molinari, who has orchestrated a lot of these great pairings and been a huge support for Luke Donald, someone to lean on for Luke Donald. But with the American side, it seems, and I think data's fickle. Data requires interpretation because you can take data and you can figure out a way to twist it into whatever you want it to be. And I think what's interesting is if the data told them to cut the rough down with their team makeup versus Europe, it feels like that was a bad interpretation of data.
And another thing, so Brandel went off on this on Live From Harris English and Colin Morikawa of the 132 possible two-man team pairings. Colin Morikawa and Harris English were 132. They were the worst possible duo in alternate shot. And he not only sent them out once, but he sent them out the next day because they wanted to go back out. I just don't think that's a mistake. And Harris is my one of my greatest friends out there. And it's nothing to do with him. It's just Europe's one step ahead always, maybe 5 steps ahead when it comes to data. If the data you're using is telling you that it's okay to put those guys out there together, then you need to find a new data guy. And if the data is telling you to shave the rough down, when the European team is actually averaging the same distance as us and hits less fairways, if the data is telling you that, you need to find a new data guy. And I think they use a company and they've been using them for a few years. And it's time that's step one in how to fix this thing is to get rid of that team of people, whoever it is.
I was listening to Keegan and it felt like they were using a dated set of preconceived notions about Europe, where it felt like 2016, they shaved the rough at Hazeltine, and that worked great because they had a huge distance advantage. They were a longer team, and it's I think one of the things when you look at from Whistling Straits, the talking points I at least was talking about it as a podcaster who doesn't know shit, and has no data. One of the talking points I had was look at how this European team has transformed from Whistling Straits the last time the Americans hosted to now, where you could say they're longer than the American team and they have more power. And they went with a setup that would favor a team that has more power, high ball hitters. Because the big thing, especially with the rain that happened, that probably hasn't gotten talked about enough, is the rain crippled Colin Morikawa and Russell Henley more than anybody in the field, because Russell Henley, sure, you could look at his driving distance and say it's 290 or whatever. He gets 290 by optimizing a knuckleball that hits the ground and runs, right? That ball is not flying 290. That ball's flying
No.
265, you know? And so with how soft it was, his ball is only going 265, and he's teeing off against Ludwig, who's hitting at 300 yards in the air. And so Scotty's hitting from 35, 40 yards behind Fitzy. And there goes your approach advantage. But anyways, the idea of cutting the rough was like a dated idea. And then the other thing I heard Keegan say was like, we need our greens to be faster because Americans putt faster greens more often than Europeans. And yeah, that was the case when the majority of the European team played on the European Tour, but that entire European team plays on the PGA Tour full time. They putt on the same greens. So, these are two overriding, philosophies that they had going in that were just dated.
Which I think is the ultimate conversation that you and I need to have here. Okay. And it's the fact that we are so outclassed captaincy wise. And I'm not knocking Keegan. He was great. His players loved him. Assistant captains, everybody said it was great. Everybody said everything was well done. Keegan almost won the Tour Championship. Keegan is playing golf at a high level. If it was any other captain, he would have been playing on this Ryder Cup team. Luke Donald has devoted the last 2 years of his life to this week, and not to mention the fact that he did it for Rome as well in a pinch when Henrik got booted. Luke Donald devoted 2 years of his life into every little single detail possible. Keegan's trying to win golf tournaments, and I think the way we choose captains, the way we go about our business, Andy, like Jose Maria Olazabal and Thomas Bjorn are assistant captains, and they're out there walking with groups and encouraging groups. And I'm sorry, we have Gary Woodland's an amazing guy, inspirational. Kevin Kisner's never played a Ryder Cup in his life, and Brant's going to be the next President's Cup captain. I love Webb Simpson. Webb is my dog, but like they have these old school guys that were successful European Ryder Cup captains out there talking to them. They have a culture that is so far above the American Ryder Cup culture. It's not even funny. I mean, it makes me sick how great they are compared to how terrible our culture is. And I don't know how to change it, but something needs to happen.
I think I think Luke Donald is also an outlier captain. Traditionally, these captains are just great players, right? And I think Luke Donald he got to world number one. And what's unique about how he got to world number one was he was way ahead of his time with how thinking about statistics and how he needed to get there. He knew he was completely disadvantaged off the tee. He obviously, for anybody listening that wasn't a golf fan during Luke Donald's heyday, Luke Donald was short and crooked. The worst combination that you can be on the PGA Tour. Short
and crooked.
and to get to world number one, what he effectively found out was like, I have to be extraordinary on approach, around the greens, and putting. And I can't remember the exact numbers, but he figured if I can gain XYZ in these facets of the game, I can be a world-class player. And that's how he got to number one in the world, by like literally working on the margins and creating small advantages for himself within areas of his game that he knew he could thrive. And when you think about that, like the holistic approach that he brings to the game, to his own game, he has taken that same thinking, like, okay, how can I gain these tiny little fractional added values of advantage over the other team? And he talked about it in his press conference about like a small example of changing the sheets on beds, putting nice soaps, and this is so silly. It's so ridiculous. Nice soaps in the shower and a door jamb to block the light. But like his philosophy was like, if our guys get a little bit more sleep or sleep a little bit better, they will play better. And this is you're talking about like, if you wanted to equate it to strokes gained, you're talking about maybe like a 0.001 stroke that he just gained. But if you do that 200 times over the course of 2 years, you have gained a marked advantage over your competition. And I think that's what he's doing.
But that's the structure of the Europe. If Liv hadn't happened, Luke Donald may never have been a Ryder Cup captain. But the way
it's a great sliding doors moment.
The way that they structure and the way they groom people to become captains, the way they have Paul McGinley and Jose Maria and Thomas Bjorn and all these guys sort of groom these guys, it's the way they all do it. The one outlier I would say would be Nick Faldo, who I'm gonna bite my tongue on an opinion there, but Nick Faldo he was more like an American captain. I'm gonna do it my way, and it's my way or the highway. And he got crushed by Paul Azinger, who I would say was the most European captain in 2008 that we've ever had, in the most complimentary way. He thought outside the box. Luke was talking in a press conference on Saturday or Friday about profiling everybody's personalities and pairing people together. And that's exactly what Paul Azinger did in 2008 and made these pods. Like, that wasn't a great team in 2008. I mean, Boo Weekley, I love him. I played the Korn Ferry Tour with him, the PGA Tour with him. I've had plenty of Coors Lights with Boo Weekley. But like, Boo Weekley played one Ryder Cup. We might have to
do a whole Boo hour segment sometime. I want the Boo. I want the Boo files. I want all the Boo Weekley stories you can give. But it's a podcast for another time.
Those are off the record stories. But they're good.
I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but the Boo Weekley, any Boo Weekley mention gets me.
I mean, and Boo was a star of that team, and Paul Azinger brought that out, and that's what Europe does time and time again. And we don't. We somehow manage to put so much pressure on our top players to where Scottie Scheffler's 0-4 going into Sunday singles. And it's just it's ridiculous, the difference when you look at it, how far and above, how far ahead they are of us. And this is another thing. The President's Cup, and I had an argument with Brendan DeYoung about it on radio, and we're going to have another argument tonight on radio about it. The President's Cup is killing the vibe of the U.S. Ryder Cup team. Killing. These guys are exhausted. This is the longest, hardest week of the year. I mean, you and I are talking about it from covering it. It's the longest week of the year. And we do it every year. And they do it once every other year, and they relish it. Like, it's almost like some of our players, and the culture of it is like, oh, man, another Ryder Cup. That's going to be a long week. Oh, man, another President's Cup. That's going to be a long week. And they're like, oh, we'd pay $500,000 to be able to play the Ryder Cup and have this experience. And so I just think our culture going forward needs to change. And now, how do we do that? It's for smarter people than me to decide. But our culture needs to change. We need to take a page out of their playbook.
The President's Cup point is one I hadn't thought of. I was on the plane. I was actually thinking about how it would be cool if every other year, if you had a Europe versus international competition, it would be kind of fun.
That's cool.
It would be cool.
So you play a President's Cup every fourth year you would play? Like, I don't know how my math is not right.
The President's Cup, I think, is becoming more competitive. I think it was the issue with the President's Cup was that the tour tried to effectively just copy the Ryder Cup instead of just making its own really awesome event. That being said, next year I'm excited about the President's Cup. It's at Medina. I think, of course, that's going to turn some heads.
I can't wait to see it.
It's delightful. But something that you were talking about made me think, and Luke Donald was a star player. Okay, he got to number one in the world, but we've seen this in other sports. The best players don't necessarily make the best coaches. Often it's like the complete opposite, where I have a buddy I used to play pickup basketball with that just wrote a book about the proliferation, like this like mass influx of Division III basketball players in the NBA that are having immense success. And it's these people that weren't super talented that had to go about thinking about the game differently and more deeply to get the success that they got. And, that's kind of the overall thesis. And part of me wonders, like, when you start to look at Ryder Cup captaincy, it's a big job. In Keegan's case, and I think he was put in a tough position because he's still an active player that was trying to play his way on the team. But, like, I think you need to have somebody that thinks about the sport at an ultra elite level. And that's different than somebody that plays the sport at an ultra elite level. And there are unicorns that do both. There are unicorns that play at an ultra elite level and think the game about the game at an ultra elite level. But to me, the thing that has to shift with Ryder Cup captain, especially on the U.S. side, is the idea that if somebody wins a major, that makes them a Ryder Cup captain. Let's sit down and have a real golf talk about golf and like the nitty gritty of golf before we just give somebody the Ryder Cup captaincy. And I'm not going to single out anybody, but I think if you go through the archives of the history of the U.S. blunders in recent years, there are just decisions like, you know what, like we're going to put, the KVB just did this on Shotgun Start the other day. Hal Sutton said, I think it'd be good for the golf world to see Tiger and Phil play together. I think it'd be good for the golf world. Not anything like there's all this equipment. They don't get along. And like that was the thought process. You saw like what happened with Zach a couple of years ago, which there are a number of things. But I think the prerequisite shouldn't be an elite playing career. If you can get the elite playing career with the elite golf mind, great. But if you can't get that, which is, there's only a small number of those, get the elite golf mind in there because they're going to pour over this stuff, especially if they aren't an elite player, because this is going to be a big deal for them.
So I'm just going to echo what you're saying. Our next President's Cup captain, Brant Snedeker, is an elite golf mind. He's elite golf mind. He was the first one I knew that hired a stats guy. His name is Mark Horton and Hortsey. And Brant was like playing practice rounds. We played practice rounds all the time together. And he's like ripping 3-wood from 290 on a par 5, hitting it in the rough. And I'm like, what? Why didn't you just lay that up? He's like, well, my guy says I've got a better chance with my short game on this hole. If I can miss it to this spot, then I've got a better chance of getting it up and down. And I think Sneds is going to be an excellent captain, and I hope at some point he gets the Ryder Cup captaincy because he will. And he may not say it, but he's not going to ever make another Ryder Cup or President's Cup team. And that's what you need. Someone that's close to the game, that's still playing a little bit, but knows they have no chance of ever making another team. So they can pour all of their time into it like Luke Donald's done. And I just think I want to go back to the President's Cup thing a little bit. Do you remember when the President's Cup started? Do you know what year?
It would have been 91, maybe 92.
1994. Do you remember 1994? Do you remember the last time we won an away Ryder Cup?
The last time we won an away Ryder Cup would be, God, now I'm blanking. It would be 2000.
Nope.
No.
1993.
Oh my God.
So 1993 we won at the Belfry, the last Ryder Cup we won away.
This is incredible data, actually.
Okay. So President's Cup comes in 1994. Don't look it up. Just off the top of your head, starting in 1995, do you know what the U.S. Ryder Cup record is, wins and losses from 95 to this year?
It's got to be like probably three or four below 500 because they've won 3 or 4 away Ryder Cups in that time.
All right, so there's been 15 Ryder Cups in that time, in 30 years, and we are 4-11. We are 4-11 in the Ryder Cup since 1995, and look. I'm not trying to piss people off here, and I'm not saying the President's Cup has to go away. I just think that we need, because we care. We care about the Ryder Cup. We care just as much as the Europeans do, but it's time to like put it in the forefront and focus on it. And find somebody. And John Wood was a team manager this year. I think John Wood has caddied in 14 Ryder Cups, and he's great on NBC. He's a good caddy. He's really good. They thought that was going to be the position that was really going to carry him to the European side.
I've got a lot of questions about that position and what it was this year.
We need somebody that is a Ryder Cup. We need somebody to devote their time. And like Paul Azinger, man, I'm telling you, like the whole Paul Azinger thing, how he's not a part of every team since 2008, how these guys aren't being like, hey, Paul, can you come be a part of our team? I mean, it's like we are getting this so backwards, and it's not getting closer as a competition. Europe's starting to be a dominant force, and with the youth. And they just lost a generation of captains as well with Liv. Maybe they'll come back and be captains, but it doesn't matter.
Well, they could just have Luke Donald be the captain every year.
I mean, yeah, I'm at such a loss after experiencing my first Ryder Cup. I'm acting like I'm an expert after experiencing my first Ryder Cup and seeing it from this whole perspective. I'm blown away with how much better they are at every different level. Okay, another one. I'm sorry if I'm talking too much.
Yeah, no, this is a podcast. So you're a guest, so I don't have to talk.
They came over last week and played Monday, Tuesday. And Luke Donald said, hey, we've got a house in the Hamptons. We've got probably a condo in Manhattan. Just don't leave the East Coast. Spend the next 5 days here. And they went and played Shinnecock and National.
I think a couple played Aronimink too, which is right down the road.
Go get ahead of the next year's PGA. Like I kind of knew Europe was going to win then. And then the opening ceremony speech, it's all about us and what we play for. And I mean, it's just, he has been a step ahead for 4 years. And I don't see who's going to change that from our perspective, unless we like just cut it off. Tiger, get us the win in Ireland, and then let's rebrand ourselves.
I think there's a lot to chew on here. I think one of the things I just want to reiterate, having been at the Whistling Straits Ryder Cup, is what has happened in 4 years is unfathomable. How we felt leaving Whistling Straits in terms of this team. Europe, the conversation was Europe may never win again. This American team is so good, and then the whole thing got spun complete like 180 on its head, and all of a sudden now it's like U.S. has to go win an away Ryder Cup, or else they'll be going on 8 years when it comes back of not holding the cup if they lose again at Hazeltine. And you start to that develops scar tissue. But I think the biggest thing with Europe is that they have established such trust across generations with their players. And they have such a nice mix in connections. You know, you talked about the captains. Like, having Jose Maria be this thread all the way to Seve. And when the Ryder Cup, the era of Ryder Cup, when it became this competition that it is today, was because of those European players. And the thread goes all the way down. And then this year, that last player thread is Justin Rose, who said after the Ryder Cup, he's going to try and play again. And, I think if he's close, he's going to get the call on it. But it goes from Justin Rose, who played with all those the great era of Ian Poulter and Lee Westwood and Sergio, down to now you've got Rory that's a bridge to Rahm, and Rahm's a bridge to Ludwig, and anybody new that comes in, Ludwig is probably going to be there for 15 years, him and Hovland, and they're connected all the way up through this whole thing. And it's like, you look at the US thing, and it's, I a couple people like Zinger's not involved. DL3, I think, was not really super involved. Like, those are probably two of the more successful. Like, people like to dog DL3, but he had, it was a miraculous comeback at Medina, right? And he had them right where he wanted them. And I think, like, that's the thing. Like, there is no trust because they haven't built in the history and that fiber that runs through the whole thing. And listen, the President's Cup point, I had never thought about it. It's a fascinating point.
I mean, we're 4-11 in Ryder Cups since the President's Cup started. You're telling me that has nothing to do with it? I would argue the data says my rudimentary data would argue that President's Cup has had an effect on our Ryder Cup team, and good or bad. I mean, I think it's a lot. I think it's. I'm not arguing for a pay for play, but I think it's much easier to have this stance that the Europeans have when they do it every other year. And, I think I like your idea of having Europe play. They won't do it. The European team would never play the President's Cup because they know they probably, when it was announced that there was going to be a cup every year for the US, they were like, this is our time. This is our time. They're never going to get us now. And but we should have like Luke Clanton and Nick Dunlap. Like, we need to take some risks on some captain's picks in Chicago next year.
Especially in the President's Cup.
Guys.
That should be where you develop.
That's what I'm saying. Let's use it to our advantage, but it's having the PGA Tour run the President's Cup and the PGA of America do the Ryder Cup. I don't think there's a lot of synergy. Like, we could use that tournament to our advantage, and we are clearly not. It's more of like, we got to do this again. We got to do this again. And they're like, I'd pay to play. Like, that's the cultural differences.
I think something I was about to ask you before you said that, before you remarked about the tour and the PGA of America not having synergy. Something I was about to ask you is, do you think that the American team would have a better shot if the PGA Tour managed the team for the Ryder Cup?
100% I do. 100%. And I'm a fan of the PGA of America. I think Kerry Haig is incredible. He's a little bristly at times, but especially when you drive a golf cart off of a cart path. But I love Kerry Haig. I think he's amazing. But yeah, I think having the synergy, if the same people ran both of them from our side, we would be dominating, in my opinion. And I'm not saying that the PGA Tour is necessarily the right people to do it, but there needs to be some common ground on that.
I got this from someone who runs a major sports franchise front office this weekend. He said the PGA of America needs to have a real coaching staff, analytics team, and operations staff locked in for every Ryder Cup. And then just let an honorary captain wave his hat like the Queen of England. This is like USA basketball having Kyle Lowry coach the team, and then 2 years later, just giving a turn to PJ Tucker. And I think it's similar. Like, USA basketball went through, like, bringing up USA basketball, they went through like a crisis in the early 2000s with those losses in FIBA and the Olympics. And they were like, what's going on? And they, with Colangelo, they completely like rebuilt the whole structure of USA basketball. And part of me, I don't have, I'm going to put my hand up. I know you've played on the tour. I don't have a lot of faith in the PGA Tour at all. But I do believe that if the PGA Tour had a team that managed the President's Cup and the Ryder Cup, that they would be way more prepared than the PGA of America, which is an organ. Let's be clear. PGA of America, this is a common misconception, and the PGA Tour are not the same. But the PGA of America is supposed to manage the 31,000 club professionals around the country, and they just happened to be sitting on two of the biggest golf tournament properties. That they are not affiliated really with professional golf in the sense of playing golf for money. They are affiliated with teaching the game, and here they are running these two tournaments that are, like, I just don't think and I don't know if the PGA Tour is the right people to put this task force together. I've seen what their design services team does to golf courses, and I wouldn't let them, ever step foot on one of my properties if I own golf courses. And so from that sense, like, I don't know if they're right, but I do believe this, that if you manage this like a franchise, like a sports team, you would have immense success compared to what you're doing right now, where this time around, Keegan Bradley is playing his ass off to try and qualify on points so he can play on the team that he's also the captain. And if you're trying to be a top 10 player in the world, there's no way you're going to be a top 10 all-time captain for the USA.
Preach, Andy. Well said. And I'm just going to add just a touch of color to what you said, because I said this last night. We were sitting in the hotel bar watching Sunday Night Football. It was Green Bay and Dallas Cowboys.
It was a good game.
And it was a good game. I made the comment. I said the PGA of America manages the Ryder Cup like the Jones family manages the Dallas Cowboys.
All right. Sorry to all the Cowboy fans. I don't really feel bad about the Cowboy fans, though.
I'm a Cowboy. I grew up in Texas. I'm from Amarillo. I grew up a Cowboys fan. I'm now transitioned to a Panther fan, and that was Thanksgiving Day 2015 when Panthers beat the Cowboys. I'm a Panther fan, but it's the truth. They've had plenty of stars. They've had plenty of time. Their biggest game of the beginning of the year, they've dealt their star to the Green Bay Packers, and he's coming back to Dallas to kick your butt. Like, I like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? So anyway, I think
that'd be like if Scotty Scheffler switched citizenship to England and was playing next year in 2 years on the European Ryder Cup team.
The PGA of America was so impressed by Justin Rose that I think they're trading Scotty Scheffler to Europe for a 47-year-old Justin Rose for the next Ryder Cup. That's that kind of move.
I mean, maybe Rosie's. This leads us into my next question. If you're the U.S., where do you go from here? It seems like you really like Brandt Snedeker. Who would they're going to have to appoint a captain pretty soon. Like, this is right around the corner.
I like Brandt. I like Webb. I like Webb Simpson a lot. I don't know why Tiger didn't do Bethpage. I've heard rumors that I'm not going to bring up. I've heard he wants to do Adair Manor possibly.
But I don't think the PGA, speaking of issues with the PGA managing this, is the PGA going to let the one Tiger captaincy happen abroad?
See, this is the problem. I don't think they have a choice. I think he would way rather go abroad and be the first captain to win on foreign soil since 1993 than he would have been a home captain where he's supposed to win. I think the obvious answer is we need Tiger. I think Tiger will be a great captain. Let's face it, he's got the time to devote. He's got the team in place to get the right data. We need Tiger. And beyond that, I think we're looking at a great lineage. I think we're in a better spot than Europe, honestly, if we're looking 10 years down the line with Ricky Fowler, Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth. Like, we got some really good captains coming up for the future, but we're in this void that Tiger left, that Liv left. We're in this void right now, and I think we desperately need Tiger to be the captain next time.
I'm surprised you didn't put DJ in the captain's list.
I mean, I think Dustin would be a decent captain. I think Dustin would be, yo guys, let's go out there, let's just beat them.
I honestly don't think he would be that bad.
It would be great. He'd be a great captain.
I think the thing about DJ, I think he knows what he knows, and he probably would get out of the way of people that were doing other things. That I think he'd be a hands-off manager that kind of just said, if this is what you think. I honestly, the way the U.S. has wrapped themselves into pretzels, I think there are like probably 20 worse choices than DJ.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. He wouldn't overthink it. That's for sure.
No. That's the thing. He wouldn't be making maybe he would make some last minute decisions, but yeah, I would agree. I think Tiger would be a good captain. I think, like, if you think about Tiger, he had sublime skills. I mean, otherworldly talents. But one of the talents that is unmeasurable and probably doesn't get enough credit is the way, I mean, he brought a level of course strategy and tactician. And he was a tactician that was way ahead of his time with how he played golf courses and how he thought about them. And I think, like, Tiger, as you said, has the time. He seems pretty maniacal about little details. If you have followed his career, and I think, like, he would bring a culture. And I think the other thing that he would do is players would be, like, inspired. You just talked about, like, the impact of the President's Cup, but, like, the President's Cup in the Ryder Cup, and saying, like, these guys, like, it's hard to get up. Like, that's one they're going to get up for.
He would be amazing if you couldn't, like, I mean, look, these guys went and played for Keegan. I'm not saying that they were up for this one. They're always up for it. They are always up for it. But a Tiger Woods captaincy on foreign soil, we are not going to go back to the next Ryder Cup without this cup. This is our cup. We're doing it for Tiger, and I think Tiger would. I think it would just be ridiculous.
If you're Europe, what are you doing?
I mean, obviously, everybody keeps throwing that Luke Donald thing out. I don't know why he would do it again. I think it's taken a ton out of him. He's devoted his last three years of his life to this. I think it's Francesco Molinari, personally. I think Justin Rose can still play on that team. So I think Francesco would be the next logical captain. He's been a part of these last two teams. He played in, obviously, did he play in 21? He would have. He had to have played in 21.
He played in 19. I don't think he played in 21 or 18.
Yeah, 18 in France. That was the Mollywood. But I think Francesco's, like, I think he's the guy. He's got the Eduardo. It's like you said, the thread. He's been Luke's, like, right hand these last two Ryder Cups. You got his brother, who's the stats guy. It's just symmetry, and it's just going to rinse and repeat. And I think Francesco is going to be amazing, and he'll put his own stamp on it.
I just worry about his relationship with Ted Scott after the hostage video yesterday came out.
I just saw that right before we're doing this. I'm here with Francesco Molinari. Yeah.
What was that situation like? Were you just confused?
I was confused. I had seen it happen on 8 where Justin had backed off Greg Bodine.
That was right before he walked the putt in.
So right before he walked the putt in, he backed him off there. Oh. And then on 15, I didn't see what happened because there was a guy in the crowd. Justin Rose was doing this is the best comment I heard from fans all week. Justin Rose is doing his aim point. He's got 2 fingers out like this. And someone in the crowd said, "I need 3 fingers, Justin, 3 fingers." And I was like, that's amazing. So I turned around to see if I could spot the guy, just because I wanted to go be his friend. And as I turned back around, he had already backed off Bodine, and I didn't see it take place. So
yeah.
And then walking up, I didn't know what was going on. Yeah, wild situation.
You probably were getting ahead, right? Because
I
you're
was
trying
trying
to be
to, but
ahead.
there was 1,000 people. There was 1,000 people inside the ropes. Yeah.
Inside the ropes was a wild place to be.
Yeah.
Speaking of the PGA of America.
Yeah. Yeah. One arm's length.
um, the with Europe, I think one big question is do the likes of Poulter, Westwood, and Garcia ever get worked back in? If you're running Ryder Cup Europe, are you extending the olive branch and working those players back into your system over time? Obviously, we saw the success of Rahm and Hatton, both live players this year, in there.
I mean, I have no problem with it. I think it would be up to the people. It would be up to the players. Did those guys? Do the current players feel like those captains, and it's Henrik in particular, like when he left, he basically gave the middle finger to the Ryder Cup, is what he did. And I like, that's how I feel about those guys. That you left, you gave the middle finger to the Ryder Cup, and I personally think Westwood's missed his chance. I think Sergio has missed his chance and handled things so poorly. I think Poulter probably the same. They don't need him. I think they'd be nice to have, but I think when they made the decision to go to live, they gave up any option of having a Ryder Cup captaincy, in my opinion. Now, I would have no problem if they got it, but that's where I would stand as a player. That's kind of my you can't. It's a total have your cake and eat it too moment. Like, you can take the money and go, or you could be immortal and be a Ryder Cup captain. And they chose the money, and you can't have both.
Yeah, I could see the PR campaign coming from Ian Poulter. It probably also correlates with his kid rising the ranks of amateur golf, and probably seeing maybe someday he's playing in one of these, and I'd like to be not persona non grata.
Well, he's going to be a future range goat, is what I'm hearing. The range goats are really they're scouting him hard.
You're breaking news here. The range goats are
No, I'm
making moves. I'm sitting on some big Boston Common news right now that I've been just waiting for the Ryder Cup to stop to break. But so that you guys stay tuned for that later this week.
The ball frogs.
Yeah, the ball frogs making moves this offseason. You eliminated the fan behavior. This became an undertone, maybe not an undertone. This became a big story of the event. I would say that there was a lot in the lead up. This is going to be the biggest, the loudest Ryder Cup ever. I don't necessarily know if it was the loudest, but it did have the most bad actors that I've ever seen at a golf event. And you were inside the ropes. And as a former player, what were your thoughts on the fan behavior and what you witnessed this weekend at Bethpage Black?
I mean, you said it. There were isolated bad actors. I felt like it was Friday afternoon. I was with Rory I was with Fleetwood and Rose again, and the comments I heard were just. They were personal. They were vulgar. There's no need for profanity. Like, there's kids out there. Like, I mean, like, what are we doing? And I just think we hold the Ryder Cup to this level. Like, it's maybe the best tournament of the year when it happens every 2 years. I mean, the Masters is so incredible, and all the majors are incredible, but we hold this Ryder Cup up to such a high standard, and it's not the Waste Management Phoenix Open. And that's what it felt like to me. It felt like you were inside 16 at the Coliseum at the WM Phoenix Open on every single shot on every single hole, and it was disgraceful. It was disgusting. I look forward to seeing all of the European players and apologizing to them for our fans' behavior. It was gross. I mean, not only that, but like there was people just throwing trash everywhere out on the golf course. Somebody threw a drink at Rory and it hit his wife. Like, I mean, there was no decency. Golf is. I view golf in a way of that is very traditional, and it was disgusting. It was disgusting, the fan behavior, but not on the whole. It was just the isolated actors.
That's the thing. Golf has those moments of silence that allow for anybody's voice to be heard if they want it to be heard. And I think like I don't want to sound like a pearl clutcher here. I've been a season ticket holder of the Bulls when I was living in Chicago. I've yelled, I've booed people, but the things that I heard people saying are just like a human decency, like level. Like I wouldn't say that to somebody that like I just like I couldn't fathom saying that to anyone, and it was just flying every hole multiple times, and I think like resoundingly felt embarrassed. I was embarrassed about being there and being American, and like to me, I don't think I've ever felt that way. In where like I felt so bad for the Europeans and their families, like more so like that was like the other thing is like of all the tournaments, like you don't see, this is the only tournament that you're going to see the players' family members inside the ropes. And to have these things being said about their family members, not just them, their family members, was just utterly despicable. And I think like this is not meant to be like a PGA roast session, but like frankly, it was encouraged. And the lead up, like there needs to be before the next American Ryder Cup, and I'm sure it'll be a talking point of Adair Manor. There needs to be a real like understanding of like what's okay and what's not okay, and like honestly, I got to the point where I was like contemplating yelling at some of these guys, some of these people that were saying the things. Like I was getting like enraged about like what was happening, and it's like to certain, there just has to be an understanding of what is acceptable. And to me, like, especially they get tuned up in the afternoon. And like, if I was going to a golf tournament as a fan, I'd be getting tuned up. Okay. Like I'd be doing the same thing, but I wouldn't be like, have some respect for the competition. And I think like the other issue is that you're charging $1,000. And if it's 4:00, I don't care if I'm getting kicked out. I'm never coming back, like is the other aspect of this and why it happened is that, why it doesn't happen at a tournament like the Masters is because you have the fear of God of your badges being revoked. Like if there's a zero tolerance policy and you're on somebody's ticket, and if you misbehave, that person's ticket is gone. And forever. To me, like that, there has to be some implication. Like I watched a video of with Rory, and I'm not going to repeat it, but you can find it on my Twitter. But like I was watching it and I was like, if this happened in a public setting, you could get arrested for like, you can't talk to people like that. And they're just doing it. Like there's thousands of occurrences of it this weekend at Bethpage Black.
I just had to do my annual HR training for NBC, and I learned a lot, obviously, and like a lot of these people should be. I mean, they would be immediately fired from their job. Like you said, arrested, immediately fired from your job. Like we need to. I mean, I don't know. I'm not calling for these people to have their faces put on online and just be crushed. But like, it's sick, and golf is better than that, and New York is better than that, and Bethpage is one of my favorite places. I've spent the night in that parking lot 8 times when I was in high school and college to go and to go play that first tee time. That was not what Bethpage, New York, and the USA is about, and it's gross. And I think it's this new culture that needs to get out of the game of golf. That it's okay to say that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Poor
it's
Rory.
just
And by the way, I can't believe he didn't physically just kick the crap out of some of those people. Like,
yeah.
I mean, if he gets any blowback for saying the things he said back to the crowd, like, I'm sorry, if you were walking out there for 5 hours, for 3 straight days, for 5 sessions of
10 hours.
golf, and had
10.
10 hours, had to hear what he had to hear for those 3 days, I'm actually like impressed that it didn't get worse.
Well, people are mad at him because he put the European flag over Bryson DeChambeau's name. So, I would like to actually suggest that the cross section of the people yelling and that are upset about that is probably like there's a lot of overlap. But yeah, I don't know. You hit it. It was such a small percentage of the fans, but it's always the vocal minority that's the loudest and leaves the lasting imprint. And it was a sad. I thought it was kind of a sad moment for American golf this weekend. And like, yeah. So I hope things change. I think there has to be some sort of policy or something moving forward with this stuff. I don't know what it is. Like, it's, what I noticed is like the yells came from 8 rows deep, right? Where they could scurry away, and that,
Yep.
That's like, I don't know with the way
The
golf
cowards.
is played over. Yeah. Yeah. It sucks. It was a dark, stain kind of on a otherwise what would have been like a thrilling Sunday. It kind of hung over, and I think like the thing that is that it certainly affected the Americans too.
I mean, they're Justin Thomas. All these guys are trying to quiet the crowd. I mean, it's just we felt that way. You and I both felt the same way. You said you were embarrassed to be an American because of the behavior. You think those players weren't as well? Like, I mean, no, there's none of our American players are encouraging that kind of stuff. It was just shocking, and I thought the fan experience as a whole was probably pretty poor at Bethpage. I mean, the Ryder Cup. I've been to a President's Cup as a spectator at Quail and Charlotte, and like it's not a great tournament to go watch. I mean, you sit and wait at a spot and watch 4 groups come through, and then you hope to go find one other spot to watch 4 groups come through. And I think a lot of it probably is the frustration of the fans sitting out there for hours, just hoping to may see one golf shot. And I think that probably has something to do with the behavior as well.
I got to ask you: Is there any worse way of than playing a match against someone and feeling bad for them, like for your own performance?
No, I mean, I can't. No, I can't imagine. I mean,
right? Like this is the worst mindset to be in if you're playing somebody in a match. Like, if you think about it from like just the pure competitiveness of like, it might have had a more of an effect on American players than the Europeans, because like the Europeans were probably like, screw these guys. Like, I'm going to play real. I mean, it's going to make me focus more. The Americans probably just felt bad. And it's like, that's the worst way to feel if you're playing a match against someone.
I didn't think of it that way, but you're exactly right. The worst possible way to feel.
All right, let's take a quick break to talk about our partner, Echo. Known for combining premium materials with comfort, durability, and performance, Echo is committed to innovative shoe technology and sustainable craftsmanship. Echo was established in Denmark in 1963 and is now a global family of shoemakers. From drawing the first sketches to presenting our finished shoes in Echo stores around the world, we apply the utmost attention to detail and quality. Echo owns their own factories, leather tanneries, allowing full control over quality and craftsmanship. They launched their first golf shoe in 1996, and they signed Tour Pro and Ryder Cup assistant captain Thomas Bjorn in 2000. I saw him strutting around in some Echoes this week. It exploded with popularity with the introduction of the Golf Street a hybrid golf shoe seen on Fred Couples in the 2010 Masters, and this marked the start of the hybrid revolution. They really set the trend and kind of made golf shoes what they are today. I think the biggest thing I love about Echoes is how comfortable they are. They are ideal for long rounds and walking, something that I love to do. So I would peruse their shop. They make more than just golf shoes as well. I've got a handful of Echo normal shoes, and I really love them. Same kind of technology as the golf shoes. So if you're interested in Echo, visit us.echo.com and shop their whole selection of shoes and golf shoes there. All right, let's get back to Johnson Wagner. All right, let's end on a positive note here. What will be your lasting moment from this PGA? And it can't be fan-centric. Mine might be fans. But what's your lasting moment?
I was out there last night. I was going to recreate Russell Henley's bunker shot on 18 for live from, and I got out there. It was incredible. But it got too dark. There was too many state troopers on the green. A guy got bumped and just went to the set. I was standing out there when they were getting the trophy, and the way they were like, the crowd was packed with European fans and the big grandstand, and watching them like they're holding the trophy around, they'd bring it down, and that would inspire the tone of the crowd, and then they lift it and they go, oh, and watching them do it, and every single player got to do it, or did it, not that they got to. I just, my lasting moment was that visual of how connected that team is and how connected their fans are. And to another point, like, there were people in the TV compound that are Americans that I work with that were rooting for the European team. Now, I know there's a lot of Americans that root for the European team. Do you think there's any Europeans that root for the American team?
Hand up.
I know. I love them. But do you think there's any Europeans that root for the American team? Like, that's another thing. Like, that's another thing. They're absolutely not. And so we have Americans rooting for Europe because of their culture, because of their team. And I'm calling for a change in the American Ryder Cup setup and American team golf going forward, just because we can't have that. I want. Let's sign some autographs on a Tuesday, Wednesday practice round. Let's talk to the fans. Let's engage. Let's be decent.
Yeah, I would agree with all those things. My lasting moment will be the Cantlay on Friday, the Cantlay Burns versus Rory Fleetwood match. And I thought, coming down the stretch, and you could pick a number of matches. You could pick the match you followed on Saturday with Bryson and Scotty and Justin Rose and Fleetwood. But it just encapsulated, I felt like those two matches in particular, the Ryder Cup and just the level of play you see. And I think, like, what makes this event so captivating is that you have these just like incredible high leverage, edge of your seat moments as a spectator when you're watching. And you're seeing these guys like effectively play like 72nd hole pressure from the first tee. And that's what makes this event incredible. And then you see these unbelievably talented golfers. Patrick Cantlay and Rory in that match were just trading like 15 to 20 footers down the stretch. And I just was sitting there. It's like, this is unbelievable watching these guys pour these putts in that have make percentage of 10. And you could see that both of them, I mean, like, those guys they don't exchange Christmas cards. They both wanted it so bad. And you see these guys crack, and you saw Cantlay crack on 18 with the wedge shot there, hit probably one of the worst shots of his career. The Europeans weren't able to make the birdie putt, but you just see, and watch these guys when they get done with these matches, and the look on their faces is what you see on major championship Sundays. And it's why the sport desperately needs more match play, high stakes match play in it, because it's easy for fans to understand. I think that's one of the reasons the Ryder Cup is so popular. It captivates like the general sports world because it's approachable. It's easy to understand. It's USA versus Europe, and they play these matches, and it's mano y mano. And match play, like, I know it delivers like maybe stinky Sundays occasionally, but it delivers a far better product from Thursday till Saturday. And I want to see more of it. And it's because you could pick out a dozen matches from this event that if you just watch the match would be more entertaining than Sunday at the 12 best PGA Tour events of the year.
You're spot on. That's why the playoffs should be match play, but they won't do it because it could potentially not give them good ratings.
That's a
different podcast.
Like it's to the point, like they're worried about one match. So why don't you just play off third place, fifth place, eighth place? And then you have 4 matches and they have consequence because there's, none of these guys want to lose to each other. That's the other thing. When you play a match, like if we went out and played a match tomorrow, you know what I don't want to do? I don't want to fucking lose. I'm going to play my ass off. If we play stroke play, I'll probably be pretty resigned that I'm probably going to lose to you, I got to ask.
I got a big match tomorrow.
I heard you guys, you got your Quail team brought in a bunch of ringers to some Charlotte thing and kicked all the regular Joe's asses.
Yes, absolutely.
I heard you were on the second team for Quail.
I'm on the second team. I'm the captain of the team, playing captain.
But they put Mackenzie and Webb out in the A slot.
If you say they, you mean me. Mackenzie has a partner, and his name is Jackson Hughes. They're Hughes brothers from another mother. They won the member last year, and yes, we ran Mackenzie out all 3 days, but Jackson couldn't play Friday, and I had to, I struggled to find a guy to play, and I got Webb to fill in the day before he left for the Ryder Cup. I will say, this tournament's been going on for 60 years. Last year was the first time we've won, and then this year Harold Varner was set for 3 days to play, but then he realized it was his anniversary weekend and he couldn't play. But Harold usually plays. Next year, I've asked Bill and Jay Haas to come up and be a part of the team. I mean, we got Freddie, Couples.
You're going to kill the spirit. Maybe you should be the Ryder Cup captain. Look at the ruthlessness you're taking to Charlotte golf. As a precursor, what I understand, it's like a bunch of Charlotte clubs play some competition, and you got insurance brokers that are going up against Mackenzie Hughes and Webb Simpson in matches.
So me and my partner last year at the same golf course at Myers Park where we played on Friday, the first round of this match, we shot 63 on Sunday last year and we won. And so Webb's like, what are we supposed to do? And I was like, well, Jono and I shot 63 last year here at Myers Park. So I'm going to need better than 63. And, as we're kind of passing carts to dropping clubs off in the car to come back and turn scorecards in, my partner and I, Jono, we see Mackenzie and Weber like, how'd y'all play? And they're like, we played okay. And I said, well, what'd you shoot? And they said 59. And I was just like, oh, we got so much grief for the two of them going out and shooting 59. I mean, but it's worth it. Like it's worth it.
just shellacking the everyman.
It was. I tell you what, I had some tough calls of guys that have played for us in the past that I just didn't have room for on the team this year, and it was tough to tell them they were sitting this one out.
God, you're like Luke Donald. You're the Luke Donald of Charlotte golf scene. Johnson, love your coverage on Live From and on Live Golf. It's been awesome to watch your post playing career continue to grow, and you're always one of my favorite people to run into at the tournament. Thanks for coming on and talking Ryder Cup, and we'll see you sometime soon. Maybe in the Charlotte area for some golf in the off season. I gotta get down
Well,
there at some
please,
point.
please, would love to have you. And Andy, I love your shows, all of them. Fried Egg, huge fan. So I'm honored anytime you ask me to come on, buddy.
All right, big thanks to Johnson for joining, and big thanks to PJ Clark putting in long hours on Long Island. Big week for PJ with the Bethpage Ryder Cup. Unfortunately, rough go with the Mets, but we're giving him podcasts to take his mind off of the late season collapse. So big thanks to PJ for editing and producing this. Thanks to everybody who joined, who participated in our Ryder Cup coverage. Whether it was newsletter, Shotgun Start podcast, or our written stuff. As a reminder, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. We have a book, a coffee table book that our pre-sale ends on October 2nd. So if you're interested in this, this really helps us figure out how many books to order. That's why we're doing a pre-sale. And then it gets delivered before the holidays. So if you're interested in that, go to proshop.thefriedegg.com. and check it out there. We have a cool bundle too. If you've been on the fence about, joining Fried Egg Golf Club, our membership that gets you the book and the membership. So check that out at proshop.thefriedegg.com. Thank you guys all for the support this week. It was a really fun week, and look forward to talking to you next week with another new episode of the podcast.